in the heart of the small Filipino city known as Cemon Cow Well, where dusty roads wind through humble wooden houses and laughter echoes from crowded street corners, a young girl named Jessica Sanchez dreamed far beyond the boundaries of her world. Life in Cemon Cow Well wasn't easy. Most families, including Jessica's, survived day by day, selling fruits, washing clothes, or working long hours under the sun just to make ends meet. Jessica grew up surrounded by the sound of tricycles rattling through narrow lanes, the smell of fried bananas in the air, and the chatter of neighbors who all shared the same struggles. Her family's house was tiny, with a leaking roof and a radio that barely worked, but when Jessica sang, the whole world seemed to stop. Her voice would rise above the city noise, sweet, strong, and filled with emotion, touching everyone who heard it. From a very young age, Jessica's love for music was clear. She used to sing while fetching water from the community pump or while helping her mother sell mangoes and bananas in the small market by the church. People often stopped just to listen. "That girl has something special," they would say, shaking their heads in disbelief that such a powerful voice could come from such a small, barefoot child. Music became her escape, a way to forget hunger, pain, and the heavy rain that sometimes flooded their little home. Each night, she would hum herself to sleep, dreaming of stages she had never seen, lights she had never stood under, and audiences who might one day hear her sing. But dreaming was one thing, reaching it was another. There were times when Jessica thought of giving up. There was no money for proper music lessons, no connections, no fancy clothes to wear. Still, she kept singing, in school events, church gatherings, and local competitions where the prize was sometimes nothing more than applause or a small meal. Every performance was a small victory, a reminder that her voice was her greatest treasure. The people of Cemon Cow Well believed in her, and in many ways, her voice became their pride, their hope, their shared miracle. When she finally got the chance to audition for America's Got Talent 2025, it felt like an impossible dream come true. The entire city gathered around television screens and old smartphones, waiting to see their own Jessica, the girl from the broken street with the golden heart, step onto one of the world's biggest stages. No one in Cemon Cow Well had ever made it that far before. They prayed for her, cried for her, and believed in her with everything they had. And when she took the microphone in her hand, it wasn't just Jessica Sanchez singing, it was the voice of a city that had struggled, survived, and finally found its moment to shine. When Jessica Sanchez stepped onto the America's Got Talent 2025 stage, the atmosphere inside the theater shifted. The lights dimmed, and the audience quieted, sensing something special about the shy girl standing under the spotlight. Dressed simply in a faded white dress borrowed from a friend back home, Jessica's hands trembled slightly as she clutched the microphone. You could almost see her heart racing, a mixture of fear, hope, and the weight of every dream carried from the dusty streets of Cemon Cow Well to the glittering stage of Hollywood. Thousands of miles away from home, she stood alone, but in her mind, she could hear the voices of her family and neighbors cheering her on. It wasn't just her moment, it was theirs too. The music began softly, and for a few seconds, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then Jessica opened her mouth, and the first note that came out stunned everyone. Her voice was pure and powerful, full of the pain of struggle and the beauty of resilience. The audience leaned forward, and the judge's eyes widened. Each note carried a story, the story of hunger, sacrifice, and an unshakable belief that tomorrow could be better. The camera zoomed in on Sofia Vergara, who was visibly moved, her expression softening with every word Jessica sang. You could feel the emotion building in the air, a connection that went beyond music, reaching straight into the heart. By the time Jessica hit the chorus, her nerves had melted away. Her voice soared across the theater, bold, soulful, and electrifying. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she sang like she had nothing left to lose. The audience rose to their feet, clapping and cheering, some even wiping away tears. For Jessica, it was as if she had stepped out of her life and into a dream. She saw flashes of her family's faces, the streets of Cemon Cow Well, the market stalls, and the little radio that once played her favorite songs. All those memories fueled her final note, a note that shook the stage, raw and perfect. And then it happened. Sofia Vergara, overcome with emotion, stood up, her hand trembling slightly before she slammed the golden buzzer. In that instant, gold confetti exploded from above, showering Jessica in a cascade of glittering light. The audience screamed in excitement, the other judges stood to applaud, and Jessica dropped to her knees, crying and laughing at the same time. Sofia walked up to hug her, saying, "You are something truly special." Jessica could barely speak. Her tears said everything. In that golden moment, the little girl from Cemon Cow Well had done the impossible. She had crossed oceans, broken barriers, and turned her voice into a miracle. The sound of the crowd echoed like a promise that the world would never forget her name. From poverty to confetti, from silence to song, Jessica Sanchez had found her place under the world's brightest lights. Back in the humble streets of Cemon Cow Well, the night Jessica Sanchez received the golden buzzer became a celebration the city had never seen before. It was past midnight in the Philippines when the episode aired, but no one in town went to sleep. Families crowded around small television sets and cracked smartphone screens, their faces glowing in the faint blue light. The electricity flickered a few times, but it didn't matter. The whole city stayed awake. When Sofia Vergara hit the golden buzzer and gold confetti rained over Jessica, the people of Cemon Cow Well screamed, cried, and danced in the streets. Some waved homemade flags. Others beat on tin cans like drums. For one night, a poor town that had often felt forgotten by the world became the center of it. Jessica's parents watched from their tiny living room, tears streaming down their faces. Her mother held a towel over her mouth to muffle her sobs, while her father stared at the screen, speechless, with pride swelling in his chest. Neighbors rushed into their yard to hug them, shouting, "She did it! Jessica did it!" The emotion was contagious. It wasn't just about winning. It was about proving that greatness could come from even the smallest, poorest corners of the earth. The people saw Jessica as one of their own, a reflection of their struggles and their dreams. For the first time in a long time, Cemon Cow Well wasn't just a name on a map. It was a symbol of hope. The next morning, the local market buzzed with excitement. Vendors who once sold mangoes and vegetables now proudly displayed posters of Jessica. Kids played pretend AGT, standing on crates and singing, yelling, "Golden buzzer!" as they showered each other with yellow flower petals. Even the old men who usually spent their mornings talking politics were smiling, saying, "That girl has made us all proud." Churches held special prayers of thanksgiving, and social media was flooded with messages from Filipinos all over the world celebrating her triumph. Jessica had unknowingly united people from every walk of life. Rich or poor, young or old, in one powerful feeling: pride. Meanwhile, Jessica's story began to spread across news outlets in the United States and the Philippines. Reporters called her the golden voice from the golden heart of Cemon Cow Well. Her simple life, her humility, and her message of perseverance inspired millions. She received letters from children who said she made them believe in themselves, from parents who said she gave them hope, and from dreamers who finally dared to chase their own ambitions. Jessica's rise wasn't just about a song. It was about faith, resilience, and the power of never giving up. In every sense, Jessica Sanchez became more than just a singer. She became a movement, a reminder that no dream is too big and no beginning too small. And as the people of Cemon Cow Well watched the sun rise the next morning, they smiled knowing that one of their own had turned struggle into glory and carried their city's name into the light of the world stage.